classes I work for, we use plants to explain genetics. So I began looking up videos on how to actually maintain those plants. And one of the videos I came across, the woman was explaining what's a root-bound plant. So when the plant becomes root-bound, it's beginning to outgrow its pot. So the roots are going to coil around the soil, suffocating the plant and preventing it from getting any bigger. And so initially I was like, it almost sounds like this plant is preventing its own growth. And I think that's the same for a lot of us. We all have this desire and this longing to grow, to recover from our past and ultimately get to purpose. But we deny the fact that we're the reason we're not there yet. So I've titled the series of these vlogs, The Road to Recovery. And like a road anywhere, it takes time, whether it's 3 days, 3 years, however long it takes, but it's gonna require some progress to truly get to purpose. Getting to purpose requires continuous growth. And it's because God is requiring us to change. He's requiring us to become someone new before he's able to sit us in our purpose. Because once we get to purpose, our purpose is going to have this requirement of us to show up every time as this effective individual. So we have to know what that looks like for us. And right now, we're just not that effective person. And that's an okay place to be in. I think so many of us dread having to say, I don't have it all together, or I'm not who God is calling me to be. Most of us don't even know who God's calling us to be. I think that it's important to take heed of the areas of your life that you need fine-tuning and give those over to God. Most times we feel that walking with Christ, walking for Jesus, stops our lives. We'll no longer have fun. We'll no longer be the cool friend invited to all the sessions and the parties, But the thing is, God is looking to take the areas in your life that require change, to take the areas of your life that you're holding on to and give you something that is so unimaginable. I can't stress that enough. I think that the hard part is giving it over. You have to be willing to submit that thing. Again, God calls us to change and become someone new. If we could just be willing to hand over who we think we are, who the mundane tells you that you are, the things that you believe you enjoy, if we could just hand that over and let God do the rest. About 3 years ago, I was having a conversation with my cousin, and he was telling me, Brittany, I think that now is the time for you to practice celibacy. I think this is the perfect season for you to walk that walk. And at that time, I was like, cuz, this is not what I'm hearing. What you're hearing from God and what I'm hearing from God are two separate things. But I can sit here today and truly say I have decided to become celibate. And it's new. I don't have it all together. When I say new, I'm talking like a month or two, maybe 2. But I've decided to honor myself in that way. I've decided to honor God in that way. And had I done it then, it wouldn't have the same value or impact on my relationship with God. I can honestly say that because I have chosen to walk that walk on my own, that it strengthened my relationship with God. It's important to understand that God is not saying stop sinning and then come to me. I think that's one of the miscommunications between the culture and the church. God really does have this come as you are mentality because he's looking to renew you. He's looking to transform you. So if you come whole and sanctified, he truly has nothing to transform. The come as you are mentality, to me, is the best way for redemption because once you truly give that thing up, once you truly submit to change, God will know that you have genuinely transformed. It goes from being forced to now it's an act of submission. And what God needs you to change and what God needs me to change may be different. The seasons and when we need to change them may also be different. Because the way that God has to save my life is not going to be the same way that he needs to save your life. The same method he has to use to save yours. But we all experience this awkward stage of knowing we deserve more. Knowing this is not the final call on our life. Where we are isn't final. This is not our end all be all. We all experience that. And it's very awkward. It's awkward because some of us have this feeling that something is missing, but we don't know what it is and we don't know how to obtain it. It causes discomfort. Others, including myself, we know exactly what God has called us to do, but we refuse to do it. Maybe we're going to miss the comfort that that area of our life brings us. Or we don't feel like we're called to do it. Little old me, you want me to apply for that job? You want me to apply to school? We have that imposter syndrome. I want to talk about two separate routes. So you have route A and you have route B. Route A is the easy route. It's going to be refusing to submit, refusing to make those necessary changes, okay? And then I'll talk about route B, which is submission. But I want to talk about how to navigate that discomfort, because both routes hold discomfort, but both routes get you to a different destination. So I'll talk about the easier one first, the cost of refusing. By refusing to make the change, whatever it is, you are choosing to stay in this season of discomfort. God gives us free will, so you can listen or you cannot. But the outcome is on you. You have to be willing to realize, I did that to myself. And it's hard to say, but you have to be willing to accept that fact. One of my favorite verses in the Bible, and I know I say that all the time, the whole Bible is truly my favorite. But this one is going to be 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9. And I'm going to use the NIV translation. It reads, "The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance." God doesn't like his people to hurt. So if you're in pain, there is purpose attached to that pain. I can guarantee you, if you have accepted Jesus Christ into your heart, everything is working together for your good, even the pain. But it's up to you to become a mature Christian, to become a mature follower of Christ, and begin to dissect and evaluate and understand what that pain is trying to teach you. What is God trying to tell you? I can tell you that the more you fight growth, the more you fight making this change, the more it's going to hurt. I want you to think back to when we were in middle school, and to the people who were not in middle school at the same time. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But we used to play a game called slaps. How slaps works is you and the other person would hold hands and you would take turns slapping each other on the hand. Don't talk about us when we were kids. So you would take turns, basically passing licks until one person eventually gave up. The objective, the way to win, was to hit your opponent in the same spot every time, because eventually that spot would get worn out and they would give up. God is going to continue to hit you in the same area of your life until you give in, until you get tired, until you get worn out, and you have no choice but to submit. That same area of your life will continue to be under attack. And each blow from God is going to be harder and harder. God will never allow your old ways and those old things to touch your purpose. I remember saying to myself, Brittany, God is serious about you, but are you? And so I want to offer that to you. You know what God is calling you to do, and he's serious about you, but are you? Are you playing life, or are you truly trying to live for a purpose? Next, I want to jump into navigating the discomfort. So, okay, we've decided to submit. And even if you haven't decided to submit and you just want to know, all right, what does it look like? Let's jump into it. The first step is making the decision. The easiest way to make the decision to, change whatever God is calling you to do is to break up with your comfort. Because ultimately, the reason why we refuse to change is because of comfort. And we find comfort in many things. So you have to understand what you're finding comfort in. It could be an addiction. It could be a relationship, whether the relationship is unhealthy or healthy. It could be your doubts, your fears, your past failures. But you have to know yourself and understand what it is that you run and hide behind. Once you understand that thing, once you know what it is, you got to break up with it. Like an ex. Like the ex that you were finally able to leave. And I'm not talking about the easy to leave ex. I'm talking about the ex that you had to fight yourself to let go of. The one that you lost friends over. The one that brought confusion to your spirit. The ex that felt right, but you knew they weren't right. That ex, that hard to leave ex. And like any breakup, it's gonna be hard, especially at the beginning, because those would've, could've, should've are gonna hit you. But you have to develop staying power. Once you decide to change and let go of whatever comfort you've been holding on to, you have to develop staying power. You have to develop tenacity. You got to figure out how you're going to keep going. The easiest way is to remember why you started in the first place. That's the easiest way. Your why has to drive you. So know your why and break up with that comfort. I want us to look at Mark 8, verses 22 through 26. I'm going to use the New King James Version. I think it's easier to understand in this particular story. And it reads, "Then he came to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. So he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. And he looked up and said, 'I see men like trees walking.' Then he put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up. And he was restored and saw everyone clearly. Then he sent him away to his house, saying, 'Neither go into the town nor tell anyone in the town.'" The first important thing about this story to me is that Jesus had to take the man out of his town before healing him. Because it's hard to heal in the environment that hurt you. Or let's just say it's not even the environment that hurt you, but it's where you've been coasting, where you've been doing the bare minimum and getting by. There are so many distractions in that familiar place. So many things that have fulfilled, or what we believe to have been fulfillment, have fulfilled your needs and have allowed you to ultimately stay that same person. You know, that place that allowed you to just make it won't allow you to become someone new. Because that's ultimately where your comfort lies. And God has to take you out of what you've always known in order to show you something that, again, I use the word, that is unimaginable. So the man was brought to Jesus. So he appeared to be a believer. He appeared to be someone who knew Jesus had the ability to heal him. He knew that. That's why he was brought there. But Jesus didn't give him his complete vision all at once, you know, even though he's a believer. It's almost as if that first touch prepared the man's vision. But the second touch is what applied the vision. The man thought initially with the verbiage that he had his complete vision. He began to say, "I see men," until he realized they look like trees walking. So no, we don't have it all together yet. If the man had left after having the uncomfortable realization that he could see men, but they looked like trees, if he had ran and given up, he never would have been around to get that second touch. This uncomfortable feeling that we feel after submitting is God preparing us for what's to come next. He's preparing us for what we've been praying for. So all these situations that have been pulling on you and stretching on you and challenging you to become someone who you've never had to be is God preparing you for when that second touch is applied, for when you clearly see the vision God has for your life. Because the thing is, let's just say the thing God is calling you to change is your attitude. So you could say, "God, all right, I'm changing my attitude." But that does not mean that you have fully submitted your attitude to God. So God is going to send you these situations that make you uncomfortable because it's challenging you? Have you truly handed that thing over to God? So God is going to send you somebody who, if you're changing your attitude, annoys the heck out of you. But he's looking to see ultimately, have you changed? We have to give God time to check our submission. Again, the man appeared to be a believer. He appeared to be. He was brought to Jesus because by this time in the Bible, it's known that, all right, there's this man Jesus. He's out here doing all these healings. So this man appeared to be a believer. So you appeared to have given your life to God. You appeared to have submitted to these changes. Now let's see if you have. And because he's going to be applying pressure and sending you situations that look like your purpose, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be new. But you have to give God his time. Give God time to give you clarity. This is the preparation. That discomfort is the preparation. It's the season of becoming. And so you have to embrace those growing pains and figure out what they're trying to teach you. Pay attention to what it means, because ultimately these growing pains are connected to your purpose. So I want to give a few gems for building the tenacity for growing pain. The first gem I want to give is make time for your spirit. Sit down, spend time with yourself, whether it's 15 to 20 minutes a day. You need to check in with sis and see how sis is doing. India Arie has a song called Hour of Love, and that's basically what it's about. Now, if you can get an hour in, great, but you need to spend some time with yourself. And honestly, God blesses us with those little 15 to 20 minutes each day. Most of the time, we spend them on social media, so if you can find those little moments throughout your day where God gives you to check in with yourself, do that, because it gives you time to learn yourself, to learn your triggers, to learn the comforts that you're hiding behind, to understand your personal values and your morals. The second gem is to avoid over-isolating yourself. A while ago, one of my mentors told me, Brittany, you're easier for the enemy to trick when you're alone. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your comforts. So it's so easy for him to use those things against you. Community is key on the road to recovery. It's key to building tenacity, especially when you can build relationships where you're vulnerable with people and you're honest with people. Hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Can you hold me accountable? I'm sure you heard the old saying of everybody needs somebody. Build that community. Find your people. The third gem is to vocalize not being okay. It's so natural for us to respond to, hey, how are you? By simply saying, I'm good or I'm okay. When in reality, you're not. I just did it a few weeks ago. My cousin was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. But in that same moment, I stopped and I said, actually, cuz, no, I'm not. And I was able to open up and get so much needed advice that I probably wouldn't have gotten if I would have just stuck with, I'm okay. Your spirit deserves to be acknowledged. The state of your spirit deserves to be acknowledged, because there are so many other areas in life, in the world, that how we feel is ignored. So anytime your spirit gets the chance to open up and to be seen and to be doctored, you ought to allow that to happen. So be okay with not being okay and vocalizing that. Now, I'm not saying, go to a complete stranger who asks you, in normal passing, how are you, and open up. No. But the people who you trust and the people who are your people, open up. So last but not least, number 4 is to keep track of your progress. The easiest way to do this is to journal. Oftentimes I find myself journaling on who am I? Or I'll do a topic of who did I used to be? My favorite one to do is who am I becoming? But keep track of those, maybe every 6 months or however often you want to do it. It's important to keep track of your progress because we oftentimes ignore the fact that we're not who we used to be. And that's important to know. It's important to take note of the ways that your life has changed, because it lets you know that I'm not just doing this for any reason. It goes back to building that tenacity and understanding your why. Your why will be that beacon of light when everything else goes dark. Hold on to that why. Love that why, girl. I'm telling you, that why is everything. That's all I have. Please share the video. Get the video to whoever you think needs to hear it. We are doing this together. If we don't have each other's back, how can we expect the world to have our back? You know, give me feedback, comment. Let me know if it helped. Let me know if there's something that I need to talk about. We are definitely doing this together.